Once upon a time.
How many times have you heard that to begin a story?
It is even funnier the second time.
Ah, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. I was 15 years old when I first saw this. I watched the show in chronological order. For many years, I considered it the greatest cartoon of all time. Of course, I have discovered newer cartoons since that were better. But still, this show was a very important stepping stone for me because animation to me was dead for the longest time until I found this show. It's a show that teaches about friendship, and that's the focus, which I found unique. Plenty of preschool shows or TVY shows have friendships, but none of them have friendship as the main focus. I'm an extrovert, meaning that I love socializing and having friends, but I was not good at it growing up. I saw this show in high school and I managed to make friends thanks to the help of the show. What made this show great was that it taught mature morals. Most shows for preschoolers would teach simple concepts like don't steal, and that you shouldn't lie. And while this show also did that, they did more mature morals that I'm not used to seeing normally in preschool shows. This show was great at dealing interpersonal relationships with Twilight and her friends. Were there bad episodes in the pre-Starlight Glimmer era? Yes, but none of them I would consider the worst things I've ever seen in my life. That's because, despite there being an adult audience, the writers were professional enough to focus on appealing to children, but also at the same time found a way to make clever enough writing and dialogue and characters that adults can also enjoy the show. There's one episode called Griffin the Brush Off, which made it look like it was going to teach the message that you should always reform bad people, but no. The episodes show that you should not always reform bad people. Abusers do not deserve redemption. And it's kind of like the idea of, if a friend is a friend of your abuser, then that friend is not really your friend. And sometimes in life, you have to cut certain individuals that you thought were your friends to make yourself healthier.
You know, this is not how I thought my old friends would treat my new friends. If being cool is all you care about, maybe you should go find some new cool friends someplace else.
And that's okay. That message there was a lesson that I had to learn as a child, i.e. my teenager self, because I used to attach myself to toxic people. But this show taught me it's okay to cut ties with bad people. I love that this show was able to do advanced morals like this. And the first 4 seasons of the show did a really good job teaching morals to children. The show made so many good episodes in the first 4 seasons. Ghostbusters, Dragon Shy, Soup for Success, Sonic Rainboom, The Cutie Remark Chronicles, Party of One, The Best Night Ever, Lesson Zero, The Mysterious Mare-Duel, Sweet and Elite, Heart Swarm and Eve, Read It and Weep, Hearts and Hooves Day, Hurricane Fluttershy, Mystery on the Friendship Express, Sleepless in Ponyville, Keep Calm and Flutter On, Princess Twilight Sparkle, Bats, Three's the Crowd, Equestria Games, and so many more. My favorite episode of the show is Pinkie Pride. It's really funny, and Weird Al as Cheat Sandwich is a delight. The songs are all awesome. Twilight's Kingdom was a perfect finale. It had well-animated fight scenes. It's up there with the likes of anime, and it taught beautiful messages, and it had a nice wrap-up of all the writing, and Reforming Discord was even good. It was beautiful, breathtaking, a perfect bookend. There was only one problem, and that it was not the series finale. Tell me, if the book closed there instead of the season 9 finale, would you complain? Season 4 felt like the perfect end. In fact, it was gonna originally be the series finale, but then someone got an idea. An awful idea. Someone got a wonderful, awful idea. And that was Discovery. Discovery took over in the fall of 2014 because Hasbro wanted to focus more on its core toy business. Yes, before you ask, this is the same Discovery that bought Warner Brothers. When Discovery took over, the channel had significant changes. A lot of the focus were these new live-action shows that no one watched. I'm willing to bet all the bits from Equestria that if they did get any views, they were from bronies that watched the channel one day and it came on right after an episode of the show and they decided to watch one of these shows because they were curious or bored. There were no new animated shows, and the ones they did have got Thanos snapped, as in half of the shows just disappeared. Dan vs. stopped airing, as well as other shows like Care Bears, Pound Puppies, and Strawberry Shortcake. While Lewis Pet Shop continued into Discovery Family, it stopped making new episodes with the rebranding of the network. It finished up its remaining unaired and unfinished episodes in June 2016. And for My Little Pony, oh boy. This became the golden goose of the network. The network gave it way more marathons than it did on the hub. And with less shows in general to compete with, it more or less became the My Little Pony network rather than an actual network. Basically, it had the same problem Nick did with SpongeBob SquarePants. But I don't think SpongeBob SquarePants even aired this much. Jesus. Even beyond that notion, for MLP, many of the writers that helped make the show great left in Season 5. This gives me an ominous feeling that The Simpsons did back in season 9 of their show, meaning that shit was coming soon and it was only going to get worse from here on out. The show has had two major problems. Both of them occurred season 5 onward. The first problem is that the show became bad at teaching morals to children. I want to focus on season 5 throughout this review. While it's not the worst season of the show, that would be season 8, but season 5 is the season where I noticed that the show is starting to go on a downward spiral. The new writers they got for season 5 couldn't really bring in the same steam that helped make the first 4 seasons amazing. While season 5 is better animated than the first 4, and the voice direction and acting are also better as well, the actual characters, stories, and writing all got worse. Sometimes the show felt like a self-parody, and I don't mean slice of life, even though, yes, that did come out in season 5. What I mean is that they start acting like how people stereotype the characters rather than express the characters. Someone not familiar with how a character acts will stereotype them, almost like you're doing a quick Robot Chicken sketch. In a comedy or something short, that's fine, but in an actual show that wants to take itself seriously, that gets problematic. And it got frustrating at times seeing how these characters grew in the first 4 seasons now regressing like it's the beginning of the show again. Like seeing Fluttershy scared of Halloween and thinking hiding under her bed is a good thing. Now, not every episode of season 5 is bad. There are good episodes. Castle Sweet Castle, Bloom and Gloom, Make New Friends But Keep Discord, Camelot Boutique, Brotherhood Social, and The Main Attraction. Season 5 can be assumed to be a mixed bag. But that's mainly because there's still a good chunk of actual episodes in this season. But unfortunately, there were more bad episodes than good episodes. This was the first season to do this, and certainly not the last. Thanks for the Memories, Appaloosa's Most Wanted, Princess Spike, Party Poop, Crusaders of the Lost Mark, Scaremaster, and What About Discord? The nadir of this season was Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep, which is the first episode of the show that I actually give a 0 out of 10 to. It's also the first episode in chronological order to make the top 10 worst episodes of the show, something that no episode in the first 4 seasons managed to accomplish. Not even Ponyville Confidential, the worst episode of the first 4 seasons. This episode taught self-harm to 5-year-old girls, and it's very, 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 very depressing. It's one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever watched in my entire life. You know, it's funny that this episode references Sailor Moon, when in reality, the tone is more similar to Monica Magica, an adult version of the show, and yet this is shown to 5-year-old girls. But there's another episode in Season 5 that's more problematic. Not as bad as Magic Sheep, but it has more problems than Magic Sheep. Magic Sheep has one problem, but it is a big problem, whereas this episode doesn't really have that big of a single problem, but has a lot of little problems that build itself up and make it more frustrating the more that this episode gets watched by me. Since this episode is 10 years old today, I thought it now being a decade old felt like the perfect time to review it. This is the Cutie Remark. How does the episode start?
If some pony had told me when I was a blank flame...
Wow, we didn't even finish the first sentence yet and I'm already pissed off. That might be the fastest that a piece of fiction has ever done that. So this episode is all about cutie marks. Season 5 as a whole has had that for a theme, but this is the episode hyper-focuses on them the most. Despite that, they do a piss poor job explaining cutie marks as a whole. Let's begin deconstructing this shit with a simple angle. Before this episode, the show has often showcased that blank flank is an insult. You saw Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon make fun of the CMC all the time with this remark.
See you this weekend. Blank. Great! Now we're stuck here with these lame blank flanks. Sure, but you know what you don't have? Your cutie marks! Blank.
And thus, it gives the implication that this term is a derogatory slur. But all of a sudden, now that the Cutie Mark Crusaders have their Q marks, apparently these two words together are perfectly fine now. Even though nothing in the show has confirmed that this statement is fine now. If you want to have this statement be positive now, like how queer used to be a slur but it's good now since it's been reclaimed, then your show needs to make that statement. And as far as the show has shown and told me, blank flank is still an insult. Keep in mind, no episode in between Crusaders of the Lost Mark and this one changed the ideology of the word. If you think I'm being harsh now, oh boy, we are just getting started. The Cutie Remark's main gimmick is time travel. On one hand, that's admirable. I love time travel stories. Time travel stories offer infinite potential. You could tell nearly any type of story with time travel. There's one thing never going to exist no matter how hard humans advance in science. Everything on Earth goes 1 second per second or 1 minute per minute. Nothing shorter, nothing longer, and nothing negative. So we as humans can never technically go about the basics on time travel. It's kind of the same with body swaps. The brains in themselves are being swapped, not the vocal cords. So when you go in a new body, you should have the voice of the body, not your own. However, in fiction, it's more fun to keep your own voice to help exaggerate the character of your own, and it helps the voice actor help their own character as well as create funny bits of comedy genius.
Ho ho! It's funny because different voices are coming out of different mouths!
Haha!
My point is, there is no real-life example. Fiction is our only convention to identify these scientific ideologies. If you were to make these realistic per se, the fun would be gone. For example, if you travel back in time, would you age backwards and cease to exist once you go past the day you were born? If you tried switching brains, you would die instantly because the brain cannot live outside the human body. Yes, even the most famous time travel movies have their own plot holes. In Back to the Future, Marty McFly should have instantly stopped existence the second that his father stopped peeping on his mother when they were kids when Marty took over the car hit. And even if the whole movie is about him fixing that, there's no reason why the new future should be perfect for him when it wasn't prior. Groundhog Day also has a major plot hole. If Phil Connors was always an asshole, why did it take Ed to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania to start the time loops? Couldn't this have happened at any point in his life prior? He's been an asshole for a long time, so it makes no sense to start here. The thing is, I don't mind time travel plot holes like this because the story and characters make up for it. They're really well written. Unfortunately, the Cutie Remark does not get that defense. It's not really well written at all. Time travel is hard to write, but the Cutie Remark is bad with time travel. Even for a time travel story, there are so many plot holes and inconsistencies with this episode that it comes across as really baffling. Even on my first viewing this episode 10 years ago, I noticed problems with the time travel itself. So in this episode, Starlight Glimmer returns and she has a magic scroll that takes her back to the day when Rainbow Dash got her Cutie Mark. She wants to do this to stop all of Equestria from getting Cutie Marks. Both of these are problematic, which we'll get to later. This causes a bunch of alternate futures to happen. This is the part where I have to say, STOP! Let me put it as simply as I can. There should only be one alternate future, not 7. The point of what Starlight creates is that the main 6 no longer get their Cutie Marks. Rainbow Dash no longer wins the race, Fluttershy can't talk to the animals, Applejack can't go back to Ponyville, Pinkie Pie doesn't get inspired, Rarity can't find gems, and Twilight can't perform magic. The first instance of the main 6 defeating a villain is Nightmare Moon. So, with the girls not getting their Cutie Marks anymore, essentially no longer teaming up, who stops Nightmare Moon? This instance right here should have been the only alternate future. Yet the first one has Somber winning, implying that Nightmare Moon and Discord have been defeated, despite the main 6 not getting together. The episode tries to give an explanation for why these alternate futures exist. Zakor in the episode says this.
Time is a river where even the tiniest changes seen can lead to a cascade of effects downstream.
But it's the same change. It's the same change every single time. What you could count as different is too minuscule. Let me explain the time travel specifics this episode implicates. Starlight having Rainbow Dash hold still causes King Samba to rule. Starlight telling the boys bullying is wrong causes Queen Chrysalis to rule. Starlight attacking Twilight leading Rainbow Dash to watch an Epocho causes Nightmare Moon to rule. Starlight whacking Rainbow Dash causes T-Rex to rule. Starlight dodging Twilight's attack causing Rainbow Dash to be accidentally crystallized causes Discord to rule. Starlight helping Fluttershy fly causes the Flim Flam Brothers to rule. Starlight zapping Rainbow Dash causes the world to end. Do I sound annoying and repetitive? Well, that's the problem with the time travel here. We keep getting the same thing over and over again. These changes here are too minuscule to warrant such different timelines. It'd be one thing if the episode showcases how precisely all these alternate futures come to be, but they don't do that. It's confusing at best and lazy at worst. It's not even so much show don't tell. They're not even telling us how this all happened. It's nothing! And what exactly did Starlight use to do all this?
Spike, only Star Swirl the Bearded could do something like that. And even his spell just went back a week. How could Starlight do more than the greatest wizard in Equestria? With this Star Swirl spell.
You heard that, right? The first time that I watched this episode, I had to rewind the clip because I thought I misheard something. But no, that's how the actual dialogue is. Let me say the dialogue out loud to showcase how stupid it is. Spike, only Star Swirl the Bearded could do something like that. And even his spell only went back a week. How could Starlight do more than the greatest wizard in Equestria? With this. Star Swirl's spell. You can see how terrible the dialogue is. Here's how I would have fixed the dialogue for this scene. Spike, only Star Swirl the Beard could do something like that, and even his spell only went back a week. How could Starlight do more than the greatest wizard in Equestria? With this Star Swirl spell? But how? And then Starlight immediately comes in that scene and says, I altered it. I have powerful magic on my own that can fix spells per se. Like removing the 1 week cap on a time travel spell. It's not much, but even the smallest of lines that are bad bother me. Heck, at the very least, you could have also said that it's just a different scroll that Starlight found. The smallest of problems can eventually lead to the biggest problems as a whole, i.e. snowball into them. When Starlight stopped the sonic rain boom for the first time, we see clips of the main six no longer being able to get their Cutie Marks. Applejack can't go back to Ponyville, and yet the first future that we see her in has her back in Ponyville. The whole point of losing her Cutie Mark was that she was not supposed to return to Ponyville. The rainbow is gone, so Applejack no longer has a guide. Even if you want to make the argument that Applejack moved back to Ponyville eventually and got help with her guiding her way there, she states this line.
Well, I'll admit, I've lived in these here parts my whole life, and I've never seen this before.
The magic of time travel is to wonder what your character could be like with certain changes. But with this notion, there are certain aspects that you can't do. And one of them is having Applejack still live in Ponyville when the sonic rain boom not going off would have prevented her from coming back. I know that I'm sounding harsh, but this is literally the first thing that we see right after the time travel stuff goes awry. It really does come across that the people behind this episode don't give a fuck about time travel writing. No, episode, Applejack should not have lived in these parts her whole life. And I am far from done on critiquing this. Want to know an even bigger problem? The Cutie Marks themselves. Starlight's attempts in the past have the main six lose their Cutie Marks, and yet, for whatever reason, they all have the same exact Cutie Marks in each alternate future. Why? You can give them literally any Cutie Mark that you can imagine, and yet you give them all the one wrong Cutie Mark that they should not have. Why does Applejack still have apples? Why does Rainbow Dash still have a rainbow bolt? Why does Rarity still have diamonds? Why does Fluttershy still have butterflies? Why does Pinkie Pie still have balloons? Wasn't the whole point of Starlight's interference that the Cutie Marks they originally acquired they no longer have? With them not only still having Cutie Marks in these alternate futures, but the same ones, it makes the episode entirely pointless. This is a 42-minute episode. It feels rushed, and yet also at the same time feels like scenes are missing. That is an interesting type of failure, being both too long and too short. It would have been so much fun seeing the main six in these alternate futures with different Cutie Marks. It would make them stand out, and if Twilight saw this, she would have an existential crisis. If they can redesign the main six each, then the Cutie Marks also should be. I tried figuring out the reason why this is the case, and all bronies have stated about this is, oh, it's genetics, and it's a predetermined genetic trait. That's fucking bullshit! First of all, there is nothing in the Cutie Remark that suggests genetics. Secondly, this episode doesn't even attempt to answer why there are different Cutie Marks. If I was Twilight and went to all of these alternate futures and saw that all of my friends still had the same Cutie Marks, I would definitely be asking questions. And finally, if it really is genetics, then that makes the entirety of the Cutie Mark Chronicles pointless.
I heard that explosion, and I saw the rainbow too. Rainbow Dash, if you hadn't scared the animals, I never would have learned I could communicate with them and gotten my Cutie Mark. I heard that boom, and right afterwards there's this amazing rainbow that taught me to smile.
When I got my Cutie Mark, I saw a rainbow that pointed me home. I bet it was your sonic rainbow.
There was an explosion I could never explain when I got my Cutie Mark. This is uncanny. If that explosion didn't happen when it did, I would have blown my entrance exam. Rainbow Dash, I think you helped me earn my Cutie Mark too. We all owe our Cutie Marks to you! Do you realize what this means? All of us had a special connection before we even met. We've been BFFs forever and we didn't even know it!
Or not, if we're talking genetics here. Nah, who cares about actual connections and friendship growth? Genetics for the win, baby! I said it before and I'll say it again. Never assume something because when you do, you make an ass out of you and me. You know what this argument is? It's been a while since I heard about this one, but this is the midichlorian bullshit from Star Wars all over again. For a quick refresher, the original trilogy of Star Wars had the Force and Jedi stuff through training. But in the 1999 movie, The Phantom Menace, they had this stupid new gimmick of having a midichlorian count. What it meant is that the more you had, the better a Jedi you were.
The reading is off the chart. Over 20,000. Even Master Yoda doesn't have a midichlorian count that high.
No Jedi has.
What does that mean?
I'm not sure.
Even though the original trilogy never had any of this and it was for the better, and these midichlorians were random, midichlorians were the start of Star Wars having the downfall, let's just say. I'll be the one to state it since no one else will. Nothing in the show gives us a suggestion on how this works, and having fans come up with your plot holes that you made does not make good writing. This episode has so many plot holes, but it doesn't even try to answer them. Cutie Remark's the same? No. How Spike managed to still be alive here? No. Explanations for each villain's defeat? No. Mayhem? How's anyone still alive? Future Twilight? Damn verses in the show? No. You see, there are no explanations for the time travel ideologies in this episode.
And how do we get here? And where's here?
More like when.
Oh, that's such a douche time traveler thing to say.
All this episode is interested in doing is showing off cool environments instead of telling a good story. To be fair, the alternate futures that we do get are all pretty cool looking. Even the deserved final one is an interesting concept.
Sorry, I'm being told this would be very expensive to animate, so instead here's some stock footage of an old plane trying to take off. They didn't have enough wings.
Speaking of Shrek, one of the things that Twilight did thanks to Rainbow Dash's Sonic Rainboom was able to excel in her magic and make Spike come out of the egg whose color is constantly changing. With Starlight removing the Sonic Rainboom, Spike should not be alive. There's no reason why he's able to join in these alternate futures with Twilight. Having Spike not be alive would actually help with the stakes. Take the movie Shrek Forever After. Shrek makes a deal with Rumpelstiltskin to allow him to go back one day of his past for fun. I.e., Rumpelstiltskin gives Shrek a day in his past to explore, and he takes advantage of Shrek and gets rid of the day Shrek was born. He even tells Shrek that his kids no longer exist.
Where's Fiona? Where's my family?
Silly little ogre. You don't get it, do you? See, you were never born. You never met Fiona. Your kids don't exist.
Having that happen for Spike in the Cutie Remark will help raise the stakes, and it will also make sense time travel wise. I mean, they show some dramatic stuff with Spike, like him nearly dying.
Oops.
Heh, my son has fallen to his death. Oops! It's still not enough. Drama-wise, sure. But in terms of good story structure, no. And the plot holes keep on coming. Here's another one. Why is Twilight an alicorn? Isn't it because she got her Q mark, made friends, and saved Equestria why she was able to become one in the first place? By removing all three, she should just be a regular unicorn again. That's even ignoring the minor plot holes of this episode. Twilight establishes that she can't use her magic here. Then later, with no change in the magic, she can use her magic again. What is the point of setting up Twilight losing her magic if she gets it back at random? In the Changewind timeline, why is Pinkie Pie's hair still poofy? Isn't it because of Rainbow Dash's Sonic Rainboom why it poofed up in the first place? Why is it that when Twilight comes back from the Changewind timeline, her paint is gone? It should have stayed with her, all things considered. I can understand this error if it was more minor, like how Rainbow Dash in the Summer universe, despite having a prosthetic wing, this scene here, has her have both of her wings regularly here because of an animation error. But the Twilight changing one is more focused, so why the error? Here's something else that doesn't make sense. The loops themselves.
I created that spell to send myself back in time. So even when you cast it, I still get sent back here.
Objection!
Are you stupid, Starlight? Do you even realize what you just did? Your spell that you used will always have Twilight come back to your time. Actually, there's two different notions of stupid here. The first one is the fact that if Starlight and Twilight keep coming back to this point, why aren't there like a million of them here? It should look like Family Guy when Brian and Stewie went back to the pilot. Have a million of them at the end.
Hold it! Stop! I don't know what I'm doing here, I'm just looking for the can.
I get that in fiction, there are different time travel notions. Groundhog Day and Madoka Magica have characters go back to the past and become their past selves, i.e. into their body. Here's the thing though, Friendship is Magic already has established a time travel episode. It's even brought up in this specific episode. It's about time. You know, the episode where Twilight travels back a week and sees said past Twilight. So, if Twilight could see herself there again, why aren't there a bunch of clone copies of Starlight and Twilight stopping each other regarding the rainbow? You can't have two different types of time travel in the same show. Once you establish how your time travel works, you cannot take it back. Ever. It ruins any vision of writing potential. You want to take a different angle at your time travel? Go make a different show. You get one per show. Oh, and by the way, if Starlight wanted to fuck up the past to change the future in her own vision, why is Twilight even here in the first place?
I knew you'd try to stop me. You're so predictable. Why else would I leave the scroll behind?
Me? Am I supposed to answer that? Well, the reason why I'm at a loss for words is because that doesn't make sense for Starlight to do that. If she wanted to win, wouldn't it make sense for the pony that could stop you to not follow you? Or did Starlight want a pointless challenge because she's a narcissist? Were you even thinking, Starlight?
Touching it triggered the map to whisk you here and watch me erase the one thing that linked you with your friends.
Oh, I was right. So Starlight rather risks losing just to watch the one she hates suffer instead of getting the job done properly. Wow. I know Friendship is Magic is a Saturday morning cartoon, but that there is cliche Saturday morning evil villainy, let me tell ya. The other stupid notion is that despite Starlight claiming to have a goal, she created a spell that will always make her lose. What does she expect to see Twilight do? Have Twilight kill herself? Starlight wanted to get rid of Cutie Remarks, not kill herself. The dialogue in this episode is so bad, even before the time travel stuff, I have issues.
I don't know, Spike. I'd like to be able to get through the whole speech without looking at the cards.
That is not how cue cards work. Cue cards aren't designed for you to read everything directly off them. Cue cards are meant to be hints, memories for your speeches, your cues, per se. That's why they're called that. It's a pun.
But, the real question about Cutie Mark magic is who it seems to affect.
I know that this is supposed to be after Twilight's speech on her friends in the CMC, but is Twilight dense? The thing about Cutie Mark magic is who it seems to affect. It affects everyone, you fucking bitch! Cutie Marks are a thing that every pony in Equestria has. It's gonna fucking affect everyone!
Nothing good, I bet. I heard she wasn't very happy the last time you saw her.
Forcing every pony in her village to have the same Cutie Mark wasn't right.
This is something I've noticed in the post-Starlight Glimmer era. It's not just the season premieres and finales. Nearly every single episode has this problem, and that is the opening or near beginnings of every single episode are nothing more than just exposition dumps. The sad thing is, Starlight Glimmer has a point. Let's really think about this. Cutie Marks are a terrible concept. In previous generations, they only existed as just an icon on the butt meant for toy sales. But in this generation, they're used to tell your destiny. Kind of. In Call of the Cutie, they have this scene where the ponies at the end of the episode with Cutie Marks think they got the wrong one.
Maybe I got my Cutie Mark too soon.
Now that I think about it, it's like the final CMC episode about growing up sucks. Glad to know that this world actually did exist in Season 1. Great way to start off 2011. Season 5 showed Cutie Marks not being all that good. Remember Appaloosa's Most Wild where this one pony was hated because every pony thought he had a cursed Cutie Mark on his flank? Yeah, this is proof that Starlight's idea of getting rid of Cutie Marks as a whole is good. And not to mention Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon being bullies, they always felt like stereotypical bullies, so I can assume that this happens all over Equestria. With that said though, why does Starlight only go back to when Twilight and her friends got their Cutie Marks? Starlight's goal, at least I think this is her goal, is to get rid of Cutie Marks as a whole. The idea of that doesn't work going only after a branch. Twilight and her friends are a branch to the tree of Cutie Mark. To get rid of Cutie Marks as a whole, you have to go back to the beginning of ponies to essentially stop evolution. If I was Starlight, I'd go back to the beginning of the pony race. You go to the roots of the tree to stop it, not the branches. Starlight's village as a whole could have shown an ideology of why removing Cutie Marks is a good idea. To put it simply, getting a Cutie Mark is depressing. According to the show, when you get your Cutie Mark, you discover your unique talent or passion. But this ideology shows a closed-minded headset of the human race. Humans are always constantly changing. No human is ever truly the same as years go by. We discover new things. Our interests change. We improve our methods of creativity. Take a look at films like Kiki's Delivery Service and Whisper of the Heart. Both of these films have our protagonists trying to figure out who they want to be in their lives. They have fun, they get angry, annoyed. They even break down crying because they believe they're at a loss or a dead end and that there's no hope or future for themselves. But the point is, they're always exploring who they truly are. You want to hear a story? Look at the guy Colonel Sanders. Even if you never heard of him, you know what he created. He created KFC, but he didn't get to create it until he was 62 years old. So by My Little Pony logic, he wouldn't get his Cutie Mark until he was 62! Let's now use me as an example. The Cutie Remark originally came out November 28, 2015, 10 years ago today. When this came out, I was in college. Do you know what I was in college for? It had nothing to do with editing or writing, the two things that people know me most as in the present. No, I went to college to learn about video game design. That's because as a child and a young adult, I wanted to be a video game designer. Obviously that never happened. I did design one video game, but it's only in my saved files and I don't currently have a program to extract it. I flunked college, and after I flunked, my interest in video games stopped for like 5 years. In 2020, I did love video games again, but only playing them, not designing them. My interests have changed. If realistic human ideology happened in Equestria, then every human would be a blank flank forever. I would be a blank flank forever because my mind is always changing. Autism does this to you. Some people can be fine doing the same thing over and over again forever, but I'm the type of person that's always seeking constant change in how I do things. It could just be my mental disability, or how I was brought up,
Or some other third thing.
but this is how I am as a person, and that's okay. I'm fine with not settling on one thing as a whole. It means that I can explore who I am, and I love exploring. It's fun. Starlight could have used these ideologies when going against Twilight. How Starlight does it may not have been the best. But doing this would make me actually love Starlight and that her argument should be studied on a fundamental level. But no, she has to be written like a Scooby-Doo villain. A bad Scooby-Doo villain. So she's gotta be petty, generic, and annoying. Nothing of interest in studying Starlight. Starlight is an idiot for allowing this loop to go on forever. Starlight is not the only idiot here. Twilight is as well. I take dialogue very seriously. Dialogue is what audiences remember the most. People quote dialogue from fiction every day, provided that the dialogue in question is good.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument. Horseradish is not an instrument either.
A quote like that works because of its setup and timing. People memorize that mayonnaise quote to this day over 20 years later. What Twilight states throughout this is dumb at best and harmful at worst. Not to mention unmemorable. Several moments in this episode I have to talk about what Twilight directly states.
Why would she ever trust you?
Even if there's a chance Chrysalis will honor her word, shouldn't you try?
You know, telling children to trust evil people as a chance is a harmful message. You should realize that Queen Chrysalis is evil. I mean, for God's sake, she impersonated your sister-in-law, threw you in a crystal mine prison, and made you nearly lose your friends. Why should you trust someone like that? In real life, this is trusting a random stranger that could shoot you with a gun. Also, Appaloosa's Most Wanted had this exact same problem.
I wish I could say I was surprised, but every world I come back to is worse than the last.
Objection! Please explain how each world is worse than the last, Twilight. This is why dialogue is important. To prevent stupid shitty sayings like this. I mean, I guess she's correct about the last one, but how is the Flim and Flam one worse than Chrysalis's timeline? The T-Rex one looked the worst, but then again, you didn't explore it! Maybe this episode was originally meant to be 3 parts and each one of these timelines would have been explored and not just the first 3. Why does Twilight consider Discord's timeline worse than T-Rex? Discord's timeline looked like fun, whereas T-Rex's timeline felt like you would have died if you just stayed 5 seconds longer. Then again, this is the same season Twilight hated Discord for simply being nice!
In what way can you tell that they are indeed under a spell?
They're having fun with Discord, that's why.
So maybe I shouldn't be surprised that Twilight is a bitch. There is a way, believe it or not, that this could work. Madoka Magica showcased this.
Hey, Homura? Could it be that Madoka's potential to become the most powerful magical girl is because you kept turning back time?
What do you mean?
There's only one reason you kept repeating this timeline. To save Madoka Kaname. By turning back time over and over, and each time for the same reason, you unknowingly caused these multiple timelines to converge.
Kyubey demonstrates to Hamura that the reason why each timeline increases Madoka's chances of becoming a god or with high potential is because of the fact that every single time the Hamura went back for Madoka, it accidentally connected. increasing Monika's karmic destiny of being the most powerful magical girl of them all. Hamura realizes this and has to stop time traveling to prevent Monika from increasing her odds with becoming a magical girl.
If I go back again, I'll only make Monika's destiny worse.
If the Cutie Remark had a line like that, I would forgive Twilight's statement more. And each time that Starlight did fuck up the timeline, it getting worse per each one would then make more sense with an additional notion like this. But because it is left vague, it leaves me confused and disappointed.
That's ridiculous. A Cutie Mark can't take your friends away.
Objection!
In Twilight's defense here, she might not be thinking about the small details of what she's seen in her life, due to her at present constantly dealing with someone manipulating time and trying to kill her and her loved ones. But this statement is never corrected ever. Looks like I'm going to be talking about Call of the Cutie again. Remember Twist? I do. I guess the show, on the other hand, forgot her. Twist was a former friend of Appleboom. Both her and Appleboom were plank flames that stood together. Even Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon teased Twist along with Appleboom. Regardless, the two were thick and thin together. That is until Twist got her Cutie Mark.
What a twist!
And then after Twist got her Cutie Mark, we never see her again. She abandons Appleboom. This is why Appleboom decided to lock her true feelings away from others forever. And it's why this dark path led to her becoming a dictator. And this action of her bitterness eventually led to her taking a time travel scroll to stop the Princess Twilight from her happy future. Oh what? Appleboom didn't do that? She stayed healthy and made new friends right away? Well, I thought that is what you were supposed to do when a friend of yours gets a Cutie Mark and you don't. Yeah, I've been talking about the Cutie Remark for a while now, and yet I never even got to the worst part of it. Starlight Glimmer herself. Starlight Glimmer does a lot of evil in this episode. And yet, she gets reformed at the end.
That Starlight must be pretty magical.
She obviously has more talent for magic than almost any pony I've seen. My magic couldn't stop her. I had to convince her to stop on her own.
That is not a fucking positive! If anything, this should be all the evidence that you need to have Starlight be sent to life in prison! When it comes to Skip and Reformation, Starlight is the only one in Season 5 where this would be a problem. If Gilda doesn't get reformed, then she just stays in her village, nothing else. If Moondancer doesn't get reformed, she stays lonely, but it's no different than how she has been, and she's not hurting others. If Diamond Tiara doesn't get reformed, she remains a bully, but it's just small-time school stuff, so nothing too aggressive. If Starlight doesn't get reformed, then the entire fucking world ends. There is nothing here that showcases that Starlight should stay alive. For all we know, she could break out of prison easily with her power. And at this point, the only magic sucking thing that we know about is T-Rex, and we ain't giving that stuff to him. That will also suck. Not to mention, because of how little we know about her being reformed could be her just lying to Twilight. Have you ever seen that Jimmy Neutron episode where evil Jimmy lies about being nice because of him tampering with Jimmy's anti-evil serum?
I want you to be my special friend.
How do you feel, clone?
Happy as a cloud, I don't mind telling you. You were right, Jimmy. Not being evil is a wonderful thing. You just work on your inventions. Bye-bye now.
Huh. Well, boy, let's get cracking.
That is essentially where Starlight is at the end of Season 5. It's a fucking miracle that she's good Season 6 onward. Complete with a new main style that no longer looks like an equal sign. My favorite part about that is the fact that they never addressed once that she has a new main style. It'd be clever if, like, Rarity helped come up with that style, but we can't have an episode on that. We can only have episodes of Starlight being a bitch. But she gets better in later episodes. Yeah, that was how I defended her like 5 years ago. Times have changed. I think we need to talk about those later episodes. And every little thing that she does, she flat hypnotizes all of the main 5 to her bidding.
Pony, hear my voice and listen!
And her message that she had to learn was, hypnotism is not good. I know the actual message is doing stuff others love to get to know them better, but Starlight legit didn't realize that hypnotism was bad. Something an adult should not have to be told. And to change a changeling, Starlight intentionally sends a dangerous monster to attack innocent adults and children just so that Thorax's brother could save the day.
We'll just use one problem to solve another. I switched the trail of plants around to lure them all wharf here. The changelings may not be able to stop it anymore, but Pharynx certainly can. When it attacks, he'll save his brother, showing every pony his good side. The others will accept him, and Pharynx will finally let love and friendship into his life and transform.
Wow.
I know, right? Great idea. Where's Pharynx?
He's gone.
Gone like gone to the throne room?
Gone like gone. One of the changelings said Pharynx left the hive for good.
And who's gonna stop the dread Malwerf I'm leading here?
But the worst episode for her is Road to Friendship. Trixie, Starlight's
Best friend!
has Starlight selling Trixie's home without permission.
You what? I traded the old, worn-out wagon that was too small for us for this nice, new, spacious one that we can both enjoy.
Who said you could do that?
It's supposed to be years into Starlight being good, yet Starlight committed real estate fraud, which is punishable up to 5 years in a federal prison! You know why I want to see someone make as a video? I've seen several videos on YouTube where we see these villain characters in animation, people analyze how long their prison sentences were if they were ever charged for their crimes in real life. I want to see someone do that for all the crimes that Starlight committed. Off the top of my head, the crimes Starlight committed in the show were, let's see, there's slavery, coercion, attempted murder, fraud, and child abuse. These are all fucking unforgivable, Starlight Glimmer! There's a montage song at the end of the episode that has Starlight interacting with the main six with their own little adventures. Why couldn't these have all been their own episodes? Wasn't the point in Season 6 for Starlight to learn friendship lessons? She learns like 4 or 5 at most out of 26. You don't need it for all 26, but seriously? Not even a quarter? Oh, of course. A fucking course. She reforms with all the villagers that she abused and they accept her right away with no dialogue. At this point, Starlight's redemption itself feels like a parody of redemptions. Not a serious one. The way this redemption is handled reminds me of this Robot Chicken sketch about Luke and Darth Vader bonding together.
Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son.
Father and son? Huh.
I'm doing it! I'm doing it! Yeah!
But at least that there was a parody. The Cutie Remark is not. Here I am talking about how terrible Starlight's redemption and future self is, and I didn't even mention yet what her motivation was. For me, motivation means everything. Motivation is what defines your character. Revealing your motivation can make me really love your character. A good example of this is Hamura Akemi from Madoka Magica. Her motivation for time travel is the reason why she is my favorite character in all of anime. She starts the show off as being cold and distant, but then we learn that she is actually really nice and sweet on the inside. A girl named Madoka in the past saved her from committing suicide, but Madoka would sadly get murdered by a witch named Walpurgisnacht. Hamura makes a wish to save the love of her life, and while she became alive again, it caused Hamura to go in a time loop of the same month that she had to repeat 100 times, or essentially 12 years in the same month, but it's all just to save an innocent girl's life.
Huh? Did I do it?
You did well.
You know, now that I think about it, Hamura is a better version of Starlight, because I actually care for Hamura, her time travel is more consistent, and I don't want to punch her in the face. And also, Hamura never hypnotized, intentionally endangered children, or sold her best friend's home. And Boonchoi of Amphibia and SpongeBob SquarePants of SpongeBob SquarePants are also better versions of Starlight, lol.
You guys all think you're so much better than me.
Oh.
Starlight.
That is the least fancy thing I have ever heard.
To simplify, they act similar and do somewhat similar strategies and decisions, but don't annoy me. But maybe I can forgive Starlight if her motivation is good. So, why is Starlight the way she is? A pony from her childhood named Sunburst got his Cutie Mark and moved away. I'll be honest, this feels like a first draft. It's an idea on why Starlight acts the way she does, but not the finished product. And yet it ended up being the finished product. Like I said earlier, Friendship is Magic started ripping off Madoka Magica, and this is another instance of it. And like with Magic Sheep, it puts no effort or understanding into what made Madoka Magica good. What did I say in my previous Ryanimation review about this? Unfortunately, it was a double-edged sword, meaning that everyone that tried to go this route succeeded. Shows like Magical Girl Sight were infamously bad for pulling this shit off without having a clue on what made Madoka Magica work. Madoka Magica had deeper themes to its tragedy and sadness. The knockoffs thought you had to be dark and depressing for the sake of being dark and depressing. Highgarden Spice was also like this. Madoka Magica had messages of hope and light amongst the darkness, while the knockoffs were more or less someone on a fanfiction website in their teens or early 20s writing what they think is good when in reality it's crap. Yep, I stand by this. In this show, While it wasn't a knockoff from the start since it came out in 2010 while Monica in 2011, the same day as the episode called The Cutie now that I think about it slowly became a knockoff. Starlight is awful. If this episode came out 5 years later, Starlight would have been called a Karen. She's a woman child. That is all that she is.
And just like that, my friend was gone. His family recognized his magical talent and sent him off to Canterlot.
Kinda rude for the family to not allow Starlight to talk to them? We're missing scenes here.
I never saw him again.
Well, why not? Because of his cutie mark. He got his, and I didn't.
Not an excuse.
He moved on, and I didn't.
Understatement of 2015.
I stayed here and never made another friend because I was too afraid another cutie mark would take them away too.
Then that's your own fault, bitch.
Next, I suppose you'll tell me that the fate of all of Equestria hangs in the balance.
Yes!
There's nothing appealing to Starlight. What am I supposed to like about her? Her clap? Nothing beats Plankton's clap from the SpongeBob SquarePants movie.
Oh, yes. Well done, SpongeBob.
The SpongeBob!
You know what baffles me? Starlight hates Cutie Marks. Her identity relates to Cutie Marks as a whole, and yet we never get a backstory on how Starlight got her Cutie Mark. 10 years later, and there's still no answer to this. As well as no answer for her mother, how Starlight started that cult, or how she even got the idea that desert place while not being able to talk to ponies. I thought you were an introvert, Starlight. That there is an extrovert action. I don't even know what the moral of the episode is. All I can gather is, Twilight's friends are awesome. Really? That's your moral? I could have gotten that from the first 4 seasons. This 2-part episode didn't need to tell me that. The other moral is, we should reform dictators. And we are not going into that. As much as I would love to continue this review, I do believe that this is a good stopping point. This Ryanimation review is longer than the actual 2-parter itself. Oh, and my score for the Cutie Remark? 5 out of 10, C tier. I said this show had 2 major problems. We delved in depth today with the first one. The first one was that the show was bad at teaching morals to children. And this episode here is the pinnacle of that merit. Next time we talk about Friendship is Magic, we will be talking about the other significant problem with the show. It won't be the very next Ryanimation review, but it will also be another Ryanimation review that I will get to next year. Happy 10 years to this episode.